Hello and welcome back to this week's edition of the Good Leader podcast. I'm Will van der Hart.
I'm Will James.
And it's brilliant to have you here because we have got a special guest today, Joanna Mollo. And Joanna, you're a really old friend. We've known each other actually since, well, probably the early days. We met at uni.
I think so. We've known each other for years, haven't we?
Yes.
And what's so lovely is our kind of worlds have collided in lovely ways.
Absolutely.
Over the years, yeah.
Yeah, and we got you here because you are leading an incredible business, Pitch Ninjas, and you coach and communicate. We help people with their communication. I mean, you communicate brilliantly, can I just say?
Well, that's so kind of you to say that because actually it was something that I really struggled with.
Okay.
So I was actually really mathsy at school. And the thing that I could understand the concept, but I couldn't get it out with my words. And actually my sister's a writer and she has that gift. So I think I spent my entire life studying how people do it and what helps a message to land. So I've basically spent my whole life observing, and then I get the privilege of being able to help people communicate more effectively, but also to lead more effectively as well. So it's that combination. But Pitch Ninjas is interesting because what we're doing is actually trying to improve communication skills around the world.
Wow.
And what's extraordinary is that when you help somebody with the way they communicate, it unlocks so much for them. You know, we just get the most incredible testimonials that the impact that we're having just because of the way that we're helping somebody communicate in a way that's a bit different, lands a bit better. And they're unlocking so much, so yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Well, just hearing you speak, I'm straight away like, this person's expert at communicating.
I mean, so much of the task of what it means to sort of live as a human being fully alive is to really inhabit your energy and your presence, and to do that in a way that's creative for other people around you so that it actually invites other people into their presence and their energy. And you have worked with some big personalities over the years, and I'm sure some challenging personalities and people that have also been just a delight to work with. But what do you find some of the sort of secrets to really inhabiting your presence so that you can communicate from that authentic, aligned, energetic kind of source?
What a brilliant, very long question. But essentially, I've never had a client that I don't really love, actually. So even the big personalities, I just know they're a bit earlier on their journey, potentially, or they're showing up in a way that isn't necessarily serving their team. So, but I'm still with them, and I'm still loving them. So I think it's really interesting what you're talking about, because it's a few years ago, everybody was talking about authentic leadership, and people often talk about, yeah, we want more authenticity. And I think now where we are today with that particular word around authenticity is that actually as leaders, we can't really show up as our truly, truly authentic selves. We have to be, however, as you said, aligned and knowing who we are to be able to lead well. But sometimes we're feeling bad, we're having a really tough day, something's going on, and we've got to put it behind us for others, right? So there's that side of things. So it's quite easy actually with someone to help them on the physical aspects of their communication. You know, the way they sit, the way they look at people, the way they hold their hands, what they do with their hands. And then you can work with people on how they have variety of pace and tone, which is incredibly powerful. If you actually listen, I was at a table listening to a lady speak, and actually nothing really that she said was terribly interesting. And not to be rude about her, but everybody was gripped and listening to her because she had this incredible way of talking with pace and tone, and people were with her. So all of those things are external things that can make somebody listen to you more than another person, right? And those are kind of simple things to fix. The deeper part, which is the sort of who I am, how I'm showing up, who I need to be in the world, that can take a little bit more time. But you can start, and it's quite a good. The beautiful thing about working with leaders and starting at the point of communication is that they're with you from the get-go. Because you play back to them kind of how they're coming across. And often they're pretty appalled. You know, I had no idea that would be the impact. And then sometimes you as the coach, you have to share some stuff that's quite tough to get them to change depending on what they've got coming up.
That is so good. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, a lot of people who watch our podcast are church leaders, they're business leaders. They are busy with what they think is the job of leadership,
Yeah.
as in I'm busy, I've got to send emails, I've got to do all this sort of stuff. Something about the way in which you're talking about communication feels like really important, but also really well paced. Are we missing something with leadership when we don't pay attention to the mechanism of leadership?
Look, it's a really big job.
Mm,
And do you know, it's so often because I listen out in the streets for what the conversations people are having. It's like, oh, and that person sent me that text, and my boss did this, and you hear it all the time. And there's just so much misunderstanding. I think
mm,
perhaps that's the trick that people are missing. Just to give you a little story, I was talking to a friend, and I've spoken to her over the years. She's in finance, got a big job. And I've just heard her say such similar things about the person who's always leading her, and that person has always changed. And it made me think, so it was almost like she was sort of projecting all the things that were wrong in the world onto the leader that wasn't doing it right, that wasn't leading right. And listen, I'm not saying leaders are perfect, they're not, they're human beings, all of us are human beings. But it made me think, actually, it's really tough leading. If you work with people who are leaders, support them.
mm.
And I think that's often what people miss. Is sometimes what I will go in when I can see there's a disconnect between the leader and their team, and I will just go in and go, give her or him a bit of a break. I mean, your job is to support them and that followership,
Mm.
that sort of notion of followership. So it's a big subject, and I don't know what else.
I mean, communication
Yeah.
can help though, can't it? I mean, don't you think? I mean, my
Yeah.
sense is that many leaders who are in the doing maybe neglect their communication and so struggle to bring people with them. Whereas
100%.
actually, if they're in the doing and
Mm,
actually they bring people with them, then life gets a lot easier. So we talk about the sort of responsibility of followership as being really important, but
mm,
the responsibility of leadership is so often lost in communication, don't you find? I mean, that's what you
100%.
effectively. What would you?
Yeah, because you've got the big set pieces that you prepare people for, and I often work with people on those big moments where they're on a podcast or they're on television or they're standing up in a select committee or whatever it is. But actually, 90 probably after that happens, 70% of the conversations we have is around the interpersonal
Mm,
things. But just a little story. So I help leaders around the world. I have a company myself, so I am a leader as well now. And I don't always get it right. So I had this little thing happen over just after the new year where I discovered, because my business partner was very brave and told me, that quite a lot of the team were really scared of me. Now, what I was going on from my side is I was just trying to improve things everywhere. I was like cleaning things up, tidying things up, taking full ownership. I own this. I'm just going to, this needs to fix. But what was actually happening is I was getting worn incredibly thin. And so the niceties were going. They just, because I was just trying to get stuff done. We're moving really, really fast. And it was not easy to hear, but I'm so pleased my business partner told me, because if I hadn't known that, I wouldn't have had that insight. And it's easy actually to do the work, to make people feel good, to bring them with you. But inadvertently, even everything I know, even I was still doing it. So it's not an easy thing, but yes. So
yeah, that's so interesting and really
Mm.
like key. And thank you for being vulnerable. I mean, I think all of our leaders are going to be going, "Oh, that's so me." I mean, the word thin. I am like
it's thin.
this brittle.
Yeah. And yet you're that thin and you still have to dig deep and be there for
Mm,
others. And I think with what happens to most people in leadership, and you know this, I mean, you're pros yourselves, but you come through the ranks and you're really technically very good at what you do. You get respect. People, like you. The people above like you, you get into the position. And then actually when you're there, it's all about everybody else.
mm,
And that shift is really hard for some
yeah,
people.
so hard.
And so when in that story that you've told, sort of got a bit of awareness.
Yes.
Um, Again, lots of people listening to this may think I can relate to that. I think I'm probably in that place that you're describing, a bit under-resourced myself.
Mhm.
That's probably having an impact on those around me. What are some of your suggestions for moving forward from that place?
Well, the biggest thing in that particular instance, and I do work with people on this, is just actually I needed to sort of take it down a notch. So my push, I was in a phase in my life I was just putting foot on the pedal and making things happen. But there was a lot of tension around it being perfect and brilliant. And I still hold that. Like I'm not going to not make sure that my company runs really well and everything. Things did need cleaning up a little bit, but I decided to just be a bit more peaceful, with that so that I wasn't feeling every bump. It wasn't the end of the world. So I used to work in a newsroom. I was a TV news reporter. So I grew up in a very adrenaline-fueled environment. And that just stays on you for a really long time. So you're like, it's got to be perfect. It's a bit like, producing a podcast. It's got to be really good. You're on. So I just had to sort of take a step back. And I think for leaders, that mindset, that thinking, it's all okay. It's all going to work out. It's all okay. Stay calm with this. And then that you will have an optimal response. So what I work with leaders is that stop point. You're in the fizz of everything happening. And unless you can have a way to pause, to choose the response, that's the thing. You've got to find your pause that then means you stay on top of it rather than the response is just coming with no filter.
And I think one of the things that we often then need to work, as you've described as leaders, to shift is that recognition that once you are a leader and your presence, your way of being actually has a big impact on a lot of other people. And so actually taking care of yourself, actually stepping out and allowing yourself to become more resourced, to change the quality of your presence is the most generous thing you can do for your team and for your organization.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for people to appreciate that and to value actually resetting the self, re-resourcing the self so that they can lead from that more generative place. So often people fall back under stress into that mode of thinking, I need to be fighting fires, responding to the urgent, looking after everyone else, prioritizing other people's needs.
Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because there's no intention there to do something wrong. You're trying to look after everybody else. But it's some of the leaders I work with really struggle with the self-care bit.
Yeah.
Really. And often, if they're very successful too,
Yeah.
it's because they think there's guilt.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm so successful, so they don't prioritize it.
And that phrase has been in my mind a bit this week, that what got you here won't get you there. That sort of idea that, like you're saying, lots of kind of technical success has often elevated people to positions of leadership. But actually they need to change the game if they're going to succeed with
I often say it's like you get to the position and you're just doing your thing because that's what you've been doing every day, and it's like you are actually blown up on a 50-foot screen and everyone's looking at you for everything, and it really matters to them what you say.
Yeah.
Because they can take it home and take it to heart and think, oh, I've done something so terribly wrong and the boss doesn't like me, or that might impact my career advancement, and that's what's going on for them.
Yeah, this is really helpful. I think that perspective is such a disjuncture for people. What I do versus how I'm perceived, and the quality of my presence with people being more important than the job that they see me do. But the guilt keeps us constantly slaving away rather than thinking about how we communicate. So let's do that. Before we finish, one funny story. You ended up doing comms for Bear Grylls' first Everest ascent.
I did.
Was that your first comms role?
Pretty much. Well, was it? I had done a little. I was working in television at the time, so I was typing scripts and researching. Just started making little films at that point. But I do laugh because Bear was obviously, we saw Bear yesterday because he was speaking at the Royal Albert Hall, and Nicky Gumbel knows that I know Bear. And every time Nicky introduced me as like the girl who went to Everest Base Camp and did the round the comms, like nothing I've done after is of any consequence.
You've done a lot of much more important things since then, but just funny. How did you end up the mountain?
You know what? What a wonderful thing. That was a life-changing experience for me, and I'm so grateful to Bear. And I have thanked him over the years, because at that point in my life, really, the furthest I'd walked was up and down the King's Road, which is, a place where people go to kind of look cool. And that was sort of me. And he was just on a different plane, really. And he said, I'm going to go and climb Everest. And I just said, and I was a bit bored in my role and I wanted something to do a bit different. And I said, can I come? And he said, yes. So they tested me out with a whole load of SAS men to do the 3-peak challenge to see if I could cope with it. I turned up with literally fashion boots. But I just about got away with it. And so there I ended up finding myself on Everest, and it was a beautiful, wonderful experience. being with them all.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a beautiful and wonderful experience having you on our podcast.
so
I hope this is not the last time.
Yes,
We'd love to
yeah.
talk a bit more about communication and leadership.
It's such a massive subject, so there's much more to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today on the Good Leader podcast. It's been fantastic to have you join us with Joanna Mollo and to find out more about executive leadership communication. We're going to try and get her back on to talk more about that. So God bless you. Have a really great day. Goodbye from me.
Yeah, goodbye, and thank you for joining us.
See you soon.